From the beautiful city of Los Angeles, California, we bring you the Gimme 3 podcast.
Welcome back, cinephiles, cinema lovers, and movie appreciators to the Gimme 3 podcast, a series for cinephiles. This is the podcast where we explore 3 films connected by one theme. And as always, we're going all in on these films, so take this as your official spoiler alert. I'm your co-host, Bella F. Stratus, and I'm joined today by my sensational co-host, Nicholas Ibarra. Nick, how's it going? How you doing?
It's going well. We're here, and we're ready for a really fantastic episode. It's a busy month for everybody, but especially busy for the podcast, and especially busy for you and I. So we're happy to be here. This is kind of our respite from the craziness.
Totally. This week, we're shining a spotlight on 3 iconic and positively brilliant Black American independent filmmakers, all from completely different eras, who brought personal, striking, and remarkably influential Black stories to the silver screen. These are artists who pushed boundaries in both story and style, inspired generations of filmmakers, and completely changed the game of cinema for years to come. We're going to start at the very beginning with the most renowned Black filmmaker of the early 1920s, carrying us from the silent film era into the talkies. It's Oscar Micheaux. Next, we're time traveling nearly 50 years ahead to the early 1970s to meet the father of Blaxploitation, Melvin Van Peebles. And finally, we'll land in the mid-90s with the brilliant Cheryl Dunye, a trailblazer for queer Black filmmakers and queer cinema at large. It's honestly such a fantastic lineup, both in terms of entertainment, but also education and honoring cinematic history, you know? So we've got a lot of firsts in this set, and while there are, of course, a bajillion more than just 3 iconic Black independent filmmakers out there, these are some serious trailblazers, names that you should know, especially if you love the movies. And if you haven't seen any of the 3 films we're going to talk about today, you're in for a treat, because we're putting you on to some absolute must-watches. This was actually my first time watching watching all 3 of these films, so I'm very excited for this episode. We wanted to do this episode as a reminder to shout out and celebrate independent filmmakers, diverse filmmakers, and we're inspired, of course, by a very special upcoming film festival that Nick is here to talk about as well.
Yes, we are leading up to the Los Angeles Diversity Film Festival, our 11th annual Los Angeles Diversity Film Festival, which is going to take place in August. This year, we got 6 vibrant short film blocks for LADFF, stories that are too often unheard, tender, they're bold, defiantly human. These films invite us to see the world with new eyes, to feel more deeply, to highlight the power of being seen, which I don't know if you guys have looked out the window lately, but it's very important these days. So I figure this was a good block and a good theme to get us prepped for the Los Angeles Diversity Film Festival, because not only are we celebrating Black independent cinema and Black filmmakers, but we're just celebrating independent cinema in general. And these are godfathers, godmothers of indie filmmaking. And our festival would not be what it is today. Cinema would not be what it is today without their work. So if you want to celebrate diverse filmmakers, independent cinema, great cinema, the Los Angeles Diversity Film Festival is the place. August 22nd, that's a Friday, through August 24th, that's a Sunday. All weekend long, come party with us. LADFF.com is the place to be. That's where you can see what's screening, watch our trailers. Most importantly, you can buy your tickets there. So do it. Go there. LADFF.com. We're going to be at the Lemley NoHo 7 in North Hollywood, obviously, and at the Vidiot's Micro Cinema, Vidiot's in Eagle Rock, in their Micro Cinema. So check out our website and you can see what's playing where and get your tickets.
I'm so excited.
It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a blast. But yeah, enough talk about the celebrating. Now we continue to the actual celebrating.
Yes. Nick, do you want to take us away with our first film of the day?
First film of the day, which is really, I mean, we're kind of starting with the foundation of everything.
Yeah, truly.
Symbol of the Unconquered, a story of the Ku Klux Klan from 1920. It's a silent film, obviously. Written, directed, and produced by Oscar Micheaux. Oscar Micheaux, for those of you who don't know, is the most important black filmmaker to ever live. He is the most independent filmmaker to ever live. He is one of the greatest Americans to ever live. I'm gonna give a little bit of a history before I go into the plot of this film. So in the 19 teens, as cinema as an art form was in its growing stages, having growing pains and just not quite an industry yet, the most significant film, American film, that was released in the 19 teens was D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation. And for those of you who don't know, The Birth of a Nation is a film that glorifies the Ku Klux Klan. It talks about how the South was not wary enough of the rising black population and black pride that was happening after slavery. White people loved it, obviously. They're like, fucking hey. Oscar Micheaux, the original independent filmmaker, not just the way he made his films, but what he made his films about, decided to make some direct answers and direct rejections of these racist ideals in American pictures and of racist portrayals of black characters in American cinema. So Micheaux, who we'll talk, more in depth about throughout the episode, and at some point we'll do a full Oscar Micheaux episode, but he put on film the truth about the Ku Klux Klan, that they're domestic terrorists.
Exactly.
And he confronts perhaps the fears of white people, why they fear successful black people in society in America. Something that we are still dealing with to this day, over 100 years later. So Oscar Micheaux's movies were pertinent and urgent in the 1920s, and they are pertinent and urgent in the 2020s, which says a lot. But that's what we'll talk about right here with Symbol of the Unconquered, a story of the Ku Klux Klan. Here's the plot, my friends. The plot centers around two white passing black characters and the different ways that those white passing characters treat other members of their race. So we've got the lovely Eve Mason, who's played by Iris Hall. Her grandfather has just passed away, and he's left her with this frontier property. And on her way to this property, she runs into a black prospector, Hugh Van Allen, who is a lovely gentleman who helps Eve, get to her new place. Eve gets caught in a storm. He helps her out. He gets her to this new place. And lucky for her, he also happens to be her neighbor, as it turns out. That's nice. The other white passing character is this guy, Jefferson Driscoll. And he's a son of a bitch. When we meet him, he's running this hotel, this bed and breakfast, and he makes black people, sleep in the barn. They don't get rooms. And Driscoll cares a hell of a lot about his money. This man is looking for a profit. Through the course of the film, he actually sells his hotel and becomes essentially like a real estate guy. What Driscoll does not care for is his race. He hates the black people, even though he is black. There's even a scene where we see him rejecting and basically assaulting his own mother, his own black mother, who outs him as being black when he's on a date with a white woman, and he basically throws her to the ground. As like I say, he's a son of a bitch. While that's happening, Eve and Hugh Van Allen, they become trustworthy neighbors. Hugh, by the way, does not know that Eve is black. So Driscoll, the bastard, and a couple of his racist buddies, they discover that Hugh Van Allen's property is oil rich, that he's got oil under his property. So they're like, okay, we can't let him know this. So we got to try and make this guy an offer that he can't refuse buy the property from him, and then we'll be super, super rich. Well, guess what? Hugh Van Allen refuses. He refuses their offer, and they get very upset, and they keep sending him warnings. You need to accept our offer otherwise, or else, Well, they enlist yet another racist, this dude, Stanton. And in one of the more menacing dialogue subtitles of the picture, Stanton says, "Don't worry. He'll change his mind, or I'll give him such a treatment that he'll either go crazy or die." And what exactly is that treatment? Well, we cut to a shot of a KKK member swinging fire around in a pitch black sky. It's like a haunting, terrifying image. So they keep warning him, and they put a note on his property, on his tent. It says, "Sixth and final warning. If by the next full moon you have not sold your land, watch out for your life. Signed, Knights of the Black Cross." So Van Allen is like, fuck them. Takes all the letters they've sent and tosses them. So on the night of that full moon, they put another letter there. And when they put that letter there, it's like the music stops. It gets very heavy. It's very silent. And the KKK comes in. Van Allen kind of returns at the same time. And it's at this point in the movie, right when shit's hitting the fan, that we have a bunch of footage missing. Footage has gone missing from this picture, which happens a lot for old films. Sometimes these old reels, they're not thinking about the preservation of them when they're making. They're just trying to make a buck. And especially Oscar Micheaux, who was like distributing these things himself. However, it does seem rather peculiar that this reel would be the reel that's missing, because here is a review from the New York Age that kind of describes the footage that is missing. It says, "The biggest moments in the photoplay are when the Night Riders are annihilated. A color man with bricks being a big factor." So basically the footage that is missing is of black men fighting back against the KKK and winning. As it turns out, we found out the oil fields were on the property. Van Allen, defeats the KKK, and now he becomes an oil king. He's rich. He's a property owner, and he's well off. 2 years later, we kind of fast forward in time. Eve has returned to visit Hugh Van Allen with a letter that proves that she is of the black race, because Hugh and Eve, like always, had a thing for each other, but Hugh wouldn't dare pursue her because he thought she was white. So now, with this blockage of their love removed, the film ends with them two embracing and kissing. So that is Symbol of the Unconquered. Bella, what'd you think of this picture?
Well, first of all, thank you for recommending this film. I must admit, it's not often that I sit down and watch a silent film, but this one is just incredible. Absolutely worth the watch, no doubt. Not that silent movies aren't worth watching. I'm just saying this one is a gem. Yes, I also want to shout out TCM and the Oscar Micheaux Society and all the others who helped restore this film. I guess kind of a quick tangent, but I learned so much about the restoration process of silent films from this movie and just researching it for this episode. And I honestly hadn't thought too deeply about that whole process of restoring silent film or films from, this movie is 100 years old, which is honestly crazy to think about. And it's an insane process because, like you mentioned, they're not only having to track down the physical film itself, but oftentimes, like we see with Symbol of the Unconquered, it's in fragments. And, if they're lucky enough to know the title, then they can go through the archived newspaper clippings to find reviews or screening announcements like they did with this to figure out where that missing piece was. Or, even just as a means of trying to figure out or get a sense of what the narrative is, even with missing clips. And I just think one of the coolest parts of this restoration process is that it never stops because there's just always more to discover. If they were to find the missing clip in this film 15 years down the road, then they'd put it together for us and we would get to see that updated restoration of the film. because these film archivists and researchers, restorers, they're really like archaeologists in a sense. They're recovering
Absolutely.
history, and I just think it's such a fascinating process. So I just wanted to take a minute to shout out the film archivists and researchers who spend years and years and years to bring us these historical works of art, and especially those created by Black filmmakers or led by all Black casts, which is something that I learned more about as well with this. And I mean, because the tragedy is that most American, especially independent silent movies, are lost. So even having just a sliver of this history accessible, and especially Black films and history from this era, even just having bits and pieces of it to watch, I think, and appreciate, is really powerful and really special. So on top of The Symbol of the Unconquered just being an outright amazing film, I think it's also important to think about and appreciate what it means to even be able to watch this film today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely loved it. I was really impressed. Even just like, this is something that just feels light years ahead of its time as well. Both as even like just in style. I was really impressed with some of the shots in this film. I kind of expected every shot to just be like a basic medium, like straight on angle, but like set the camera up here and then let the action unfold within the space. But Oscar Micheaux actually plays with a bunch of different angles, and he loves the close-up, like a really intense close-up, which I really enjoyed, and even just the way he edits the film. And I really loved especially the spotlight shots where there's like a circular black vignette around the edges of the frame. I thought that was a lot of fun. That's just stylistically. And then, of course, the whole thematics and like even performances as well are amazing. I mean, shout out Iris Hall. I fell in love with her in this. She's truly brilliant, just so badass as well. I mean, she's doing like stunt work in this film.
Yeah. 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 There's one shot where she just like takes a fucking tumble down a ladder.
Yeah.
And she just eats this bump. And you're just like, Jesus Christ. That's like, she just fell like 10 feet and she just eats that bump like nothing.
Like nothing. It's amazing. She's just, it's such a physical performance on top of being incredibly emotional. And one of my favorite scenes with her is when she comes out of her house in full cowgirl gear, and it's right after they've learned that the KKK is coming for Hugh, and she like jumps on this horse and it rears up and she's holding on with one hand like she's in a rodeo.
Yeah.
It's like, go get your man. Like it was just I never would have thought I would see that kind of like badass heroine imagery in 1920. So that got me really hype as well. I loved it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people say Oscar Micheaux way ahead of his time. I don't like saying that because I think he was not ahead of his time. I think other times have been behind him.
I love that. Yeah.
I think he was speaking the truth to what was happening at his time, and Black audiences were flocking to these pictures, and some white audiences, but mostly Black audiences. And it's because, I mean, you want to talk about independent cinema. This man, the way that he would make his movies and distribute his movies is that once he would shoot a film, he would literally get on a train and go to Black communities, city by city, town by town, and say, hey, I'm a Black filmmaker. I've got this motion picture. This is what it's about. I would like to screen it in your theater for our community, and we'll split the house. And he just went city by city, town by town doing that. So it was really self-distribution in the purest sense. And I mean, it doesn't get more indie cinema than that. And because this was also before, like really before the film industry existed, this is like really before, like some studios were popping up, but there was a lot more mom and pop shops of, film companies and film industry in this day. Like it was very still in its infancy, the industry. So
it's like if you had a camera, you could make it.
It was, I mean, not even like, yeah, but how do you get a camera? Like,
That's what I'm thinking. Like, that's hard.
it's
Yeah,
like
especially in that era.
this guy, yeah, it's not like today where it's like, all you gotta do is do it, man. It's like,
Pull out the iPhone. Yeah,
well, you
no.
got to fucking load this film, and you got to develop the film, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, and you got to take it, or you got to get it into screens. Like, it's a totally
Mm,
different game. And
right.
he did it all without being, quote unquote, trained. Nobody was trained because there was no film schools in this day. So,
Mm,
anyways, just
amazing.
his perseverance and his follow through in getting these films made and in front of audiences is something
Mm,
to marvel at. But yeah, the film itself, like you said, his style, he was very experimental. He liked, and that continues to show, like in his other silent films, like Body and Soul is probably his most famous silent film, which we'll talk about on another later episode. But really does a lot of interesting things with the camera in that film. And in this film, especially those shots of the KKK, man, are just so
yeah.
horrifying. Like, to this day, I don't know if I've seen like a more scary image than all those KKK riders, like, in the night sky with flaming torches. And then
Hmm.
he cuts to a close up of one of the KKK guys, and he's like right in the camera with the fire right next to his face, and it's just like, Jesus, man.
No, I agree. That scene, that was like the scene that stood out the most. And especially because, you think about even like Day for Night. Like, there are many scenes in this film that are set during night, or we can assume they are, but they're obviously shot during the day.
Right.
So that being like the darkness, like pitch black with the torches set against it, it like starkly stands out against the rest of the film. And it was seared into my mind. It was sick. It was horrible.
Yeah. So yeah, this film has some really great performances, like you mentioned, Iris Hall. I don't have his name on hand here, but the guy who actually plays Driscoll, the son of a bitch, is really good also. Like for the style of silent film acting, because it's a different style, obviously, because you can't talk. Right. So it's very like exaggerated. It's very big. It's like much more close. It's closer to stage acting, but even heightened beyond that. But for silent era, that style, I thought his performance was really great. And then Van Allen's performance is way more subdued and like, regal, which shows like the depiction of, the black characters that he wanted to depict.
Mm-hmm.
Respectable, men of honor, gentlemen.
Totally.
So yeah, this is his story, his path, and an answer to the birth of a nation. So it is a crucial piece of American history and cinematic history, this film.
I have to say, I loved the ending of this film so much. I loved the split second glimpse of their first kiss. So romantic.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. That's like the final image we're left with. But I also loved that right before that, there's like another man who walks in on the two of them, Hugh and Eve. And the camera like pans towards Eve and Hugh, just like staring intently at each other. Like, it's so intense. And then it pans back to him and he just turns right back around and walks out the door. It's like such a funny little rom-com kind of moment.
Yeah. And he gives a nice little like wink before he closes the door. He's like, all right, brother.
I loved it. I loved it so much. Because there's a lot of like intensity in this film. So I loved that it ended so joyous and with a wink. And I really loved that.
They were unconquered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a wonderful ending. It's a wonderful film. We can all pray that at some point in the future they find that missing reel, they find that missing footage to complete the film. But even without it, it still is a tremendous, tremendous piece of work.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I picked that over, say, Within Our Gates or Body and Soul, some of his other like really popular, more complete silent films, is because the connection of theme to the next picture we're going to talk about and the other picture that we're going to talk about, which is just, identity, race, white passing, like all the very, very interesting connections between all of these films. So
Right.
I thought it was
Totally.
fascinating. But yes, A Symbol of the Unconquered, a story of the Ku Klux Klan by Oscar Micheaux. You can find it on Canopy. You can find it, I believe, on the Criterion channel. If you don't have either of those, you can find it on YouTube, actually. It's on YouTube. So check it out. Let us know what you think. And check out all of his work. Yeah, like I said, at some point, we will do a full Oscar Micheaux episode because there's just so much about his story that is so fascinating. And some of his movies are just absolutely breathtaking and still will knock your socks off 100 years later.
Yeah, I'm really excited to check those out.
We're going to jump ahead now 50 years to 1970 for a film called The Watermelon Man, or Watermelon Man. I don't know if there's a "the" there. But it's directed by Melvin Van Peebles, and it's written by Herman Rocher. And the film stars Godfrey Cambridge and Estelle Parsons. What a wild movie this is. I love it.
Yeah.
The film follows Jeff Gerber, who is a white suburbanite. He's your typical middle-class American dream guy, or, what's been fed to us as the American dream. He's got his wife, he's got his 2 kids, 1 boy, 1 girl, he's an insurance salesman. He's got the lovely suburban home in Altadena. He's kind of a goober,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
He races his bus every day to work for some reason. I don't know why. He's like constantly exercising. He sits in his tanning bed every morning. And at breakfast, his wife is enthralled with the civil rights protests that are on the news. So every morning and every night at dinner, she wants to turn on that news and watch what's going on in the country. And Jeff is like, it's all noise. Don't pay attention to that stuff. His wife is like, we should pay attention to this stuff. So Jeff Gerber, he is not your, typical like abhorrent racist that you see in a lot of films. It's not like egregious.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
He's just
that guy.
He's just that guy. Yeah, he's just obnoxious. He's just like, he makes racist jokes that aren't really funny. They're just bad.
Yep.
So it's not like they're offensive, but it'd be more offensive if they were funny. They're just bad. Even like other white people around him are like, who invited this fucking goober? Like, get this guy out of here.
Yep.
But one morning, Jeff Gerber wakes up and he's black. And this is a good time to mention that prior to this moment in the film, we have Godfrey Cambridge in whiteface. And now we just have Godfrey Cambridge. Both in the first act and the second act, what you have is Godfrey delivering a tremendous performance as a suburban neoliberal white man, even after he's been transformed into a black man. So it's just a tremendous, tremendous performance. But back to the plot. So Jeff's black now, and he's freaking out. And at first he thinks he's dreaming. He's not dreaming. Then he's like, oh, it's that goddamn tanning bed. And his wife is shocked and perplexed, and he's buying all this cream to try and lighten his skin. He's bathing in milk. He's trying everything. And as an aside, though, I think it's very sweet that his kids are totally unmoved by the fact that he's black. They're just like, yeah, whatever, but can we like watch you change the bus tomorrow? Or
I loved that.
So as you can imagine, Jeff's life has totally changed now. People at work view him differently. They use him to approach the black market and black customers. They can sell insurance to the black community now, something they couldn't do prior. And his neighbors no longer want him in the neighborhood because it will drive down the property value. So he and his wife are getting repeated phone calls telling him to get out. Ultimately, even Jeff Gerber's wife, who, seemed like she was open-minded, seemed like she was liberal. Her true colors start coming out as well. She leaves Jeff Gerber. And Jeff is left alone as a single black man in the city, changed man, changed life. But gradually, he gains something else. He gains a little bit of pride, perhaps we'll say. Power. Black power, even. Watermelon Man. Before I throw to you, Bella, I just want to say, I know
Yes.
I admit that I kind of cheated with this film on our theme today because there's going to be people at home who are like, hello, this was not an independent film. This was released by Columbia Pictures. I'll explain why I picked it. But first, I want to hear Bella's thoughts on Watermelon Man.
Oh God. I mean, you said it. Wild fucking movie. I went into this completely blind and it was the greatest payoff ever. Um I'm also a big fan of Metamorphosis, the Frank Kafka story, and any movie that references that because I think it's just so fun. So I loved that this kind of was like that kind of inspired the story, and what a most creative and clever version of it, honestly. Especially within the context of like 1960s, 70s America. Honestly, it's a timeless film as well. I think this film is just as bold and hilarious and heartbreaking and important today as it was then. So I'm so glad we're talking about it here on the podcast, and especially for this episode.
In order to talk about some of the history about why I picked this film, I'm going to have to go in earlier than usual on our segment. Give me 3 pieces of trivia for Watermelon Man, okay?
Let's go.
I want to play a game.
Okay, so here's why I picked this, even though it is a Columbia Pictures release. It has an independent heartbeat. So the writer, Herman Rocker, who wrote the script on spec in 1969, he wrote it basically because a lot of his friends who were like, yeah, we're liberal, we're liberal. But then he would ask some other question, then they'd be like, oh, yeah, we're still kind of racist. So that's what he wrote. That was what inspired him to write the script. Columbia Pictures liked the idea, but they were like, even in 1970, the screenplay was so outrageous. They're like, we cannot do this without a black director, which they did not hire a lot of black directors in 1970. So it just shows you. So they hired Melvin Van Peebles based on, his work on the wonderful film Story of a 3-Day Pass. The writer and the director, the writer, who's white, and Van Peebles, who's black, frequently clashed on set. Rocker wanted the movie to be a satire of white liberal America, whereas Van Peebles wanted to make it a black power movie. So what Rocker ended up doing was novelizing his own screenplay to ensure that the original version of the story survived in some form. So there's a piece of trivia number 1. Piece of trivia number 2. Rocker, the writer, and the studio originally wanted the film to end with Jeff waking up white again and being like, it was all a dream, Oh, dang. Woo, weesh. Thank God I'm not black anymore. And Melvin Van Peebles is like, no, I'm not doing that.
No.
No, this is going to end, this way. He's got to stay black. And of course, the studio is like, okay, well, why don't we do this? Why don't you film your version and then you film our version also, and then we'll just pick whichever one we think is better in the edit. And Melvin Van Peebles like, okay, I'll do that. So when it gets to the edit room, the editors are like, hey, where's that version where he turns white again? And Melvin Van Peebles like, oh, shit, I forgot. Sorry about that. I forgot to film it. Expert move by Melvin Van Peebles. He said in a DVD interview, he's like, what did you want me to say? I'm on to you, honkies. I know what you're going to do. So he just said, I forgot. Oopsie. Okay. Piece of trivia number 3. Columbia actually was very happy with the finished product, and the film was a financial success. And Columbia was like, you know what, Melvin Van Peebles? You're all right. We're going to give you a 3-picture contract. And Melvin Van Peebles said, maybe later. Fuck you for now. I'm going to go make my independent film, Sweetback's Badass Song. which turned out to be not only the highest grossing independent film of 1971, but also the highest grossing independent film ever up to that point. And I don't know if you've ever seen Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song, but you think this movie's wild. That movie's fucking wild. And Columbia watched that movie and they're like, we're going to rescind our contract offer. So yes, this is a Columbia picture release, but it is helmed by one of the most independent at heart filmmakers to ever pick up a camera. And in that, you have these independent sentimentalities, this independent heartbeat injected into this studio picture. And I think that is what makes it so fascinating, so interesting, and so powerful, and why it is one of my favorite films ever.
I love it.
So yeah, there you go. Melvin Van Peebles, you're all right. Now I could talk about the movie, though. What I love about this movie.
I love that, though.
Yeah. It's just fucking... I laugh my ass off in this movie every time I watch it. There are so many great lines, and the delivery by Godfrey is so great in so many of them. When he's turned black and he's like losing his mind, his wife says this thing. She's like, "Don't be so militant." He goes, "I'm not militant. I'm white." There's this other line that gets me every single time. It's like the delivery man comes to deliver a new tanning bed because he's called the tanning bed company, upset that it's made in black. So the delivery guy delivers a new tanning bed, and Jeff attacks him because he's like, "Get that fucking thing out of here. Are you kidding me?" And the wife's apologizing to the guy, and the guy's like, no, it must be a mistake. It must be a mistake because that guy needs a sun lamp like Fred Astaire needs dance lessons.
I loved that line. I wrote that one down too because, oh my God, that cracked me up. I also love when he tries to go back to sleep after waking up and realizing he's black. And he's like, "So stay asleep, Althea. As long as you're asleep, Althea, it's still a nightmare."
Right.
Just the delivery is everything.
What a performance. What a performance.
Yeah.
And you know here's like some of that like independent avant-garde style injects itself into this movie also. That's why it's like it is a studio picture, but it doesn't really feel like a studio picture. The music, which is by Melvin Van Peebles, there are points in this film where the music goes totally insane. Like over dialogue is this acid-infused jazz that just has this intense manic energy that just raises your blood pressure. And it's over scenes with two people talking. And it's just like, fucking hell, this guy is making choices, man. Like, it is not a paint by numbers slapstick comedy by any sense of the imagination. Like, he is swinging for fences.
Yeah, I thought it was so cool that Melvin Van Peebles made that song. It's called like Love This. Wait, what was it called? Love This Is
Love, That's America.
Love, That's America. That's what it was. Yeah, just like oh my God. Yeah, like you were saying, the lyrics and the emotion in it is, and I love how much it comes up throughout the film as well. It's like a motif. But yeah, that was brilliant. I thought it was that feels very indie as well. I completely agree.
The other thing that's really impressive about this movie are some of the tonal shifts. Because for like good portions of the movie, the characters and the tone are borderline slapstick, you know? It's like when this movie starts, it's like broad comedy, you know? It's a black guy in white face playing a white guy, and he's like, "Hello, well, wait for me." It's like very broad. And Van Peebles creates these characters in that tone. But when shit gets real, he puts those same characters, Jeff and his wife in particular, into these really grounded and dramatic scenes where they're like combating race and their love for each other, and if the love has changed, and the characters still feel like themselves. Like, it doesn't feel like, the characters are like completely different, but you're starting to feel shit and your heart's starting to work and your brain's starting to work. I mean, that is incredibly difficult to pull off, to do that dramatic of a tonal shift.
Oh yeah.
It's just really, it's really a balancing act. And then what's even crazier is like, he has that really dramatic scene and you're just like, fucking hey man, this shit's getting heavy. And then the very next scene is him in bed with that white woman, and it goes back to zany, kooky, slapstick, crazy shit.
Totally. Yes. Oh my God, that was hilarious. I also loved, like, I feel like in the beginning, like you're saying, Broad, it also just felt like kind of making fun of like the white American sitcoms on TV. But then like when he transforms, so to speak, it gets really funky, like visually and stylistically. It kind of reminded me of Roger Corman's The Trip, which we watched for this show as well, with just like the rainbow colors or filters, and that whole like transformation scene, or kind of like realizing that he's transformed, I guess, is so amazing and so creative. I loved how they put like a glass pane between Godfrey and the camera, as to use as like an illusion of him looking at his face and his skin pressed up against the mirror.
Yeah.
And then like randomly cutting to his bare ass for half a second. It's just so good. Like, it's still, like you said, there's almost like minute tonal shifts throughout it as well. And I just thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, that scene is really tremendous.
Very memorable.
Very memorable.
I also loved Estelle Parson.
Yeah, she's great. I mean, she's great in everything.
Great. I thought they had really great chemistry, not like in more of like a verge of divorce couple kind of way.
Right, but it was like believable.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you really felt everything that they were going through. And you were talking about earlier how Herman, or what's his name? I can't say it now. Herman Rocher, wanted the more like white liberalism thematics or theme, and then Van Peebles wanted the Black Power theme. But I honestly thought it was kind of a nice balance, at least in the beginning, with like that opening scene of his wife being like, oh, look at what's happening on TV with the riots, and if white people would just open their hearts to Black people, everything would be fine. And then like the second that she wakes up and her husband was Black, she's like reverting back to her racist, like saying like crazy shit, and you're just like, girl.
The trick is to be logical and rational. I got a warranty around here for that sun lamp. Let's say logical and rational. Yeah.
You really think it's a sun lamp, don't you?
Oh, you'd like me to be colored, wouldn't you?
Well, not really, but it would serve you right with that attitude of white supremacy.
Well, I didn't see you exactly running over to hug and kiss me when you thought I was a Negro.
I was upset because I thought you were a stranger.
Oh, beans. If it was a white stranger came out of that shower, you'd have humped him. Oh, here it is. They're a reputable company. I'm sure this has happened before.
Yeah, all over Africa.
Oh, just keep it up, baby. Just keep it up.
So, it kind of starts out with maybe what Rocher's original intent was, but then I think it was a much better film, with the way Melvin Van Peebles kept it going, and the ending, of course. So I can't imagine when I heard when you were talking about how they were going to have him wake up white again. I mean, what are we doing, guys? Like,
I think that would just be the difference of this movie not holding up and being like, if we watched it today, it'd be like, oh man, fucking Clueless. How clueless were they?
Exactly.
What a piece of shit film.
Yeah, literally. Honestly,
it makes the difference. And the other thing that the studio originally wanted to do when Melvin Van Peebles was brought on to direct this was they're like, oh yeah, so for the main character, we're thinking maybe Alan Arkin. They wanted to have a white actor do blackface, and he was like, no, we're not doing that. We're gonna hire a black actor and do whiteface, not a white actor and do blackface.
They're like, we need a black director, but a white actor.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so Melvin had a lot of, he stood his ground on a lot of stuff in the making of this film.
Good for him.
And
It pays off.
it does pay off. And I love that scene where we kind of like, the Black Power theme at the end of the film is very like he doesn't say it. There's never like a dialogue scene or like a big monologue where he like makes his proclamation or anything like that. He does this montage of Jeffrey walking at home at night after night, and just this montage of him walking with different suits on. His style changes a little bit, and just his demeanor changes. You see him walking, kind of with his little white man walk. And over time, it kind of turns into a strut, and there's this very subtle performance by Godfrey. You just get the sense that without saying it, okay, this man is now black and he's proud. And then, of course, the final shot where he's like in a martial arts class and with all these other black men, and shows him like charging at the camera with a bow staff. And it's like, okay, fucking A. So it's all done without dialogue, which is probably how he was also able to get it through the studio system, because they were probably too stupid to understand what was happening.
Totally.
But it's just expert. It's expert storytelling, visual storytelling.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, Gerber, it looks to me as though you've been giving out quite a bit of free advice these past few days.
That's part of the job, isn't it?
Oh, maybe. But on your first day, you made 9 calls and sold 1 policy. 3 policies you did nothing about, and 5 policies you rearranged so that our company loses $363 in annual premiums.
But eventually, all of those people will become good customers only because I took the time.
Nonsense. Gerber, those people don't know the first thing about insurance. You would be doing the community a public service to sell them all the insurance you could so that they would never become a drain on our society.
Every one of those homes that I visited in the last few days was occupied by personal, responsible...
Horse crap.
Look.
Excuse me, buddy, but... Excuse me, lady, but... You fooling, ain't you? Where can I be? This ain't America, is it? Oh, Lord, where can I be? This ain't America, is it? No, this ain't America. You can't fool me.
Watermelon Man. It is available to rent on demand. I believe there is a Criterion edition. Let me confirm this. Yes, there is a Criterion edition DVD or Blu-ray available. And it's also a part of the Melvin Van Peebles Essential Films 5-disc Criterion collection. Only $100. Fucking A, I'm buying that right now. So check it out. Check it out on Criterion, because goddamn, it's worth it. And you can check out your local video stores, Vidiots, Cinephile Video.
Yep.
Videotech. Check those out if you live in the Los Angeles area. I also, last time I was in Chicago, the great city of Chicago, there's a new video store that's right next to the Music Box Theater, one of the greatest theaters in all of these United States of America, the Music Box Theater. There's a new video store just right next door to it. So check it out there. It's a small video store on the outside, but I was talking to the guy who's like the manager, and he says they've got just like thousands and thousands of titles in their archives and in the back. So if you go in there and you're just like, they probably don't have it. They don't have that much stuff on display. Talk to them. They probably do have it. All right. That's going to take us to a break, everybody. During that break, you're going to hear from Gimme 3 producer, LADFF director, and my wife, Sonia Maru, for a segment that we call Sonia's Movie Minute. So stick around for that and much more right here on the Gimme 3 podcast.
Hello, I'm Sonia, and this is my Movie Minute. This episode wouldn't be complete without discussing Charles Burnett's Killer of Sheep. Killer of Sheep is a poetic film comprised of a series of vignettes following a man named Stan, his family, and their neighbors in Los Angeles' Watts neighborhood in the early 70s. I saw it for the first time a couple years ago, I believe on a 16 millimeter print, maybe 35, at the New Beverly Cinema, and I was blown away. Burnett made the film as part of his graduate thesis at UCLA. He filmed it over about 50 weekends while still going to school and working a full-time industry job. Although the film played at the Berlin and Toronto film festivals in 1977, it couldn't be released to general audiences because Burnett hadn't been able to secure the rights to the music in the film, which include songs by Louis Armstrong, Dinah Washington, and Earth, Wind and Fire. The film was finally released to the public in 2007 when UCLA did a 35 millimeter restoration and the music rights were secured, thanks in part to a donation by Steven Soderbergh. This year, in 2025, Killer of Sheep was given a 4K restoration and a theatrical release. It's now available through the Criterion Collection.
It's the Gimme 3 podcast, everybody. Today we are discussing Black independent cinema. Before the break, we discussed the work of Oscar Micheaux in his silent film A Symbol of the Unconquered, and the great Melvin Van Peebles in his work with Watermelon Man. And now Bella's going to bring us home with another fantastic, groundbreaking Black independent filmmaker.
Yes, our final film of the day is The Watermelon Woman from 1995, written, directed, and edited by the one and only Cheryl Dunye. One hell of a debut feature film, might I say. Cheryl even stars in the film as a version of herself, a 25-year-old Philly-based aspiring Black lesbian filmmaker working at a video store with her best friend, Tamara. Cheryl has a particular affinity for 1930s and 40s films featuring Black actresses, most often cast in stereotypical mammy roles, icons like Hattie McDaniel, Butterfly McQueen, or Louise Beavers, of course. But after watching a film by a white filmmaker named Martha Page called Plantation Memories, Cheryl is immediately entranced by an unknown Black actress in the mammy role who is merely credited as the Watermelon Woman. Thrilled to have finally found the subject of her first film, she sets out to make a documentary chronicling her search for the Watermelon Woman's true identity. The film cuts back and forth between Cheryl's day-to-day life working at the video store, her friendship with Tamara, her dating life, her obsession with the Watermelon Woman, and scenes from her actual documentary, including behind-the-scenes footage of her search through old archives, or even interviews with people who had some kind of connection to the Watermelon Woman. Through these interviews, Cheryl learns the Watermelon Woman's real name was Faith Richards, and that she was a lesbian actress and a nightclub singer who performed in queer clubs back in the day. Through some deeper research, she uncovers that Faith was also in a relationship with Martha Page, the director of Plantation Memories, as you'll recall. Outside of the documentary, Cheryl strikes up a relationship with Diana, a white lesbian she meets at the video store after recommending a fantastic double feature of Cleopatra Jones and Carrie. Obviously knows her shit.
You know, it's 2 for 1 Monday through Thursday.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time deciding. What do you think? Cleopatra Jones, Jason's Lyric, or Impersonal Best?
Well, Cleopatra Jones is really fun. Why don't you do Cleopatra Jones and Carrie? I think the two go really well together.
No, but Carrie, I hate Sissy Spacek. She's all weird and pale and thin and anorexic in this movie. I kind of like my girls with meat on their bones, you know what I mean? Anyway, I just saw it.
Well, there's always some sci-fi like Aliens, or how about Repulsion with Catherine Deneuve? She goes nuts in her apartment one night.
I just moved into a new apartment. I don't think I need that.
Well, help yourself. It's 2 for 1.
Okay, thanks for your suggestions.
You're welcome.
So who's the cutie?
Some customer.
She's got a nice bone structure if you're into white girls. Do you think she is or isn't in the family?
Tamara, why are you always constantly clacking women?
We're lesbians, remember, Cheryl? We're into female-to-female attraction. Anyway, you're the one who's supposed to be clocking all the girls. How long has it been since you've been with one, anyway?
A week. Remember the emotionally imbalanced Yvette?
Come boy, Cheryl, she was not that bad. Besides, she called Stacy last night and she asked about you.
Oh, she was
Blah,
all
blah,
that.
blah, blah, blah. If you two worked as much as you talked, I'd have a chain of video stores by now.
While her documentary journey successfully continues in the right direction, things in Cheryl's personal life grow a bit more complicated. She has a fight with Tamara, who doesn't really trust Diana, accuses her of having a fetish for Black women, and accuses Cheryl of trying to be white. But Cheryl is too deep in her project, too close to the truth, to even waste a second thinking on all of this. In the end, Cheryl learns that Faith has passed away, and the one person who was her partner of 20 years, June Walker, is hospitalized on the very day Cheryl's meant to meet with her. But June leaves behind a letter to Cheryl urging her to continue her work and to tell the true story of Faye Richards, her life, her art, and her relationships. Though she's had a falling out with her best friend and ended things with her lover, Cheryl finishes her documentary. It's the perfect film within a film, with both layers woven together beautifully. As Cheryl searches for the truth about the watermelon woman, she unexpectedly uncovers deeper truths about herself along the way. And the film's end credits blend seamlessly into the completed version of Cheryl's documentary. So we get to see the final product in the end. And it closes with a quote from the filmmaker herself saying, "Sometimes you have to create your own history. The Watermelon Woman is fiction." Beautiful, wonderful, unforgettable film. Nick, what are your thoughts on The Watermelon Woman?
Yeah, it's wonderful. One of the more inventive coming of age stories you will find. It really takes themes of identity and searching for identity and searching for connection, or trying to find connection in your past, and takes it to it's just a very unique approach, and just the morphing of genres of like documentary, mockumentary, fictional storytelling, and just it blends them all. It kind of reminds me of some of the work like when Agnes Varda would do, documentary work. There was a lot of elements like that kind of just like blend. It's just cinema and storytelling, and she will use whatever medium works at the moment. Like she's not sticking to one lane, and she doesn't need to, she's just exploring art form and her voice in any way that inspires her.
100%.
So yeah, I think it's just really fascinating watch and kind of inspiring as an artist to watch that. Just be like, yeah, just have fun, just paint, paint with this canvas. Yeah.
Yes. Paint. I love that. Yes, absolutely. And that's what it feels like, like it does. It's so great because it does feel like a first film, both like the movie itself and the movie itself, but at the same time it's like it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
A first film. Yeah, I loved every second of this. This is definitely a new favorite of mine, and I totally agree. It's so inspiring, especially like for any aspiring filmmakers out there. You got to watch this movie. We talked about the restoration processes and film archives a bit earlier with the symbol of the Unconquered. And I loved that, like, not only does the Watermelon Woman take this conversation further, but it's kind of at the center of this film.
Yes.
For some history, I read that the idea for this film came to Cheryl when she was taking a Black film history class, and she was researching Black actresses for it. And she kept running into the same issue that we see in the film, where these women's names are completely left out of the film's credits. So it comes back to that final line of the film. Sometimes you have to create your own history. Cheryl was struggling to find the right kind of photographs or footage from this era that she wanted to focus on, the 30s and the 40s. Like real archival photographs and footage that she wanted to like tell this story. And then, of course, as an independent filmmaker without the big budget, it makes it harder to even access and get to use some of the big archival footage and photographs from like old Hollywood and stuff like that. So Cheryl said, fuck it, I'm just going to create my own story for Black lesbians in film history, which is just fucking amazing. And so she teamed up with a photographer named Zoe Leonard, who shot the incredible 30s inspired photographs for the film of Faye Richards. They actually call it the Faye Richards Photo Archive. And I think it's even had its own exhibits in museums since the film's release, which I would kill to see that. I mean, that just sounds amazing. And then I believe they also had Ira Jeffries shoot the footage of Faye Richards and Martha Page together, or like her and Plantation Memories, the fictional film.
Right.
And I just think it's genius for so many reasons, but also because I think it's completely possible that there is a true story like this out there, especially with how many films pre-1950s were lost. That alone is brilliant, but then to make this a film in a film to show like her own process making the film and how it affects her and her identity, like that's the money right there.
And I did wonder if, like they have the Martha Page as the fictional character, the fictional white director in here who was like, potentially the secret lover.
Right.
When they were showing Martha Page, I couldn't help but wonder if they were acknowledging or it was like a subtle hint at Dorothy Arzner, who we did an episode on last year, because they make her look like Dorothy Arzner and the way that she dressed, that's for sure. So I was like, huh.
And like her poses on set.
Yeah. Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I thought that too, which would be such a fun nod. And obviously Cheryl Dunye is very knowledgeable in film history, and lesbians in film. So I feel like, it had to have crossed her mind.
It couldn't have been a complete coincidence.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, all of it. I mean, it's so great. And I agree with you as well on the genre blending. And I think one of my favorite aspects was like this film is so original and feels so authentic to Cheryl Dunye, but at the same time, there are a lot of like tributes, like you mentioned. Oh, you mentioned Agnes Varda.
Oh, yeah.
Agnes Varda. I didn't even pick up on that, but I totally agree. One of the main, I felt like, inspirations for this as well was She's Gotta Have It, Spike Lee's. I feel like there were certain moments in this film really reminded me of the style of that movie. Specifically when she goes to meet Diana at her house, and it's like this huge open warehouse.
Yeah.
And they have a very beautifully shot sex scene, very similar to the ones in She's Gotta Have It, where it's just like very, very intimate close-ups, and kind of like a hazy montage. So I thought that was a lot of fun too, because I feel like that would be, for some reason, like they have the same vibe.
Well, you have a black woman talking directly to your audience in both of those films.
Oh, and that too.
Like
just
straight up spiking the lens. And more so in the 90s, you have this resurgence of black independent cinema. So you have, a lot of strong black female characters, but so often not from their voice. And that includes, with Spike.
Hi, I'm Cheryl, and I'm a filmmaker. No, I'm not really a filmmaker, but I have a videotaping business with my friend Tamara, and I work at a video store, so I'm working on being a filmmaker. The problem is I don't know what I want to make a film on. I know it has to be about black women because our stories have never been told. So I've been renting movies. No, I haven't been renting movies, but I get movies from the video store that I work at, and I've taken all these films out from the 30s and 40s with black actresses in them, like Hattie McDaniel and Louise Beavers. And in these films, in some of the films, the black actresses aren't even listed in the credits. And I was just totally shocked by that. So in this one film that came into the store, Plantation Memories, I saw the most beautiful black mammy named Elsie. And I just had to show this, so watch.
Oh, don't cry, Missy. Master Charles is coming back for sure. I know he is. Do you really think so, Elsie? Oh, yes, Missy Barbara, I know he is. I prayed to God all night long, and this morning, his little angel told me that he was coming back to you.
Her name, the Watermelon Woman. That's right, Watermelon Woman. Is Watermelon Woman her first name, her last name, or is it her whole name? I don't know, but girlfriend has it going on, and I think I've figured out what my project's gonna be on. I'm gonna make a movie about her. I'm gonna find out what her real name is, who she was and is, everything I can find out about her. Because something in her face, something in the way she looks and moves is serious, is interesting. And I'm gonna just tell you all about it.
But, and the other thing that I like about it is Cheryl doesn't, her character is very three-dimensional, and she's very flawed, I do like her journey, and it's understandable her journey to try and connect with this person from the past who she feels like she has something in common with. She's got movies and she's got women in common with this person, but it's also very clear and obvious that while she's going down this rabbit hole trying to find out something about this person who is no longer alive, she's also ignoring or poo-pooing her best friend. I love that scene where they're kind of sitting on the doorstep, and Cheryl's totally caught up in, her movie and her relationship with this white woman. And she doesn't seem to have time for her best friends, who is, a black woman in a lesbian relationship. She's more concerned about the black woman who is in a relationship 50 years ago, not the best friend that's sitting right next to her. So I like that it doesn't just, she's flawed. She's got some things that she needs to work out. She's young and sometimes naive in that sense as well.
She's real.
Really strong
piece of work. And really funny too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great funny moments. I loved the scene where she goes out and she starts interviewing people on the street, asking if they know who Faye Richards is.
Yeah.
And there's one scene where she's interviewing these three gay guys, and they're talking about Rosie, some girl named Rosie.
Rosie Perez.
No, yes. Okay. Yeah.
They're throwing shade at Rosie Perez. They're like, the Watermelon Woman, isn't that Rosie Perez? She's like, no, this girl's from the 50s. They're like, well, maybe that was Rosie Perez. Rosie Perez do be looking like that. And I was like, God damn.
And then the title card, it's sorry, Rosie, in cursive. Handwritten apology.
Fucking gays are ruthless.
Ruthless, yes. Oh my god, I loved that scene. I thought that was fantastic, and it felt so real.
Yeah.
It's who's to say, that she didn't just go out and film the, I don't know what's real and what's not in this film at times. Obviously, it's revealed, but I think that's also such a special part of this movie.
Yeah, Guinevere Turner also does a really great performance in this. She plays the white girlfriend, and Guinevere Turner, we just recently talked about her on our Kevin Smith episode. She is in a lot of Kevin Smith movies, but she was the director of Go Fish, which premiered at the same year that Clerks did. And we talked about how Guinevere Turner was kind of the inspiration for Chasing Amy. So it's fun to see her pop up in this movie in a very lesbian movie. It's all right, this is what a lesbian movie looks like.
Yes, exactly.
There's a lot of interviews with Cheryl Dunye just talking about her process and how she came to make this film and how it kind of started. She was a video artist, she was making a lot of short films that were very experimental, and those experimental short films would be playing in art shows in New York and stuff. And that's kind of how she got to meet some of these filmmakers like Todd Haynes and stuff like that. And how she got introduced to, this new queer cinema and independent cinema, and noticed that there was not, the black lesbian perspective. And she was like, well, that's my cue. And she really kind of took off. But, talking about her blending of genres and not sticking to one lane, I think that could be attributed to her avant-garde filmmaking in grad school. And at one point she was like, I didn't even want to be a filmmaker. I thought I was going to be a video artist, which a video artist is not even really something that exists anymore. Or maybe it does. Maybe I'm just not going to enough museums. But in the 90s, it was big.
Yeah.
So anyways, just
So
there's lots of really great interviews with Cheryl Dunye. And we're talking about preservation of movies.
Yeah.
Cheryl Dunye spearheaded the preservation of this movie when it was getting around the time to be the 20th anniversary of The Watermelon Woman. She was the one who was like, you know what, who's gonna step up and restore this and make sure it gets the attention and do it deserves. She's like, well, I'm gonna fucking do it. So
I love it.
She spearheaded it and made sure it found its new audience. And there's a lot of organizations that helped with it. Outfest and UCLA Film Archives partnered with her, but she and her producing partner were the ones that were like, no, we're gonna make sure it happens because otherwise it may not.
Yeah.
Independent filmmaking, everybody.
The Watermelon Woman. Check it out. You can watch it on Canopy, the Criterion channel, or you can rent it on Apple TV, Amazon. Boo, Amazon, though. I don't even know why I said that. I just am looking on my phone right now where to watch it. But definitely local video stores. I'm sure that movie's in there. I mean,
this one also has a Criterion edition, I believe. So,
beautiful. Okay.
Check it out. All right, my friend. We got one. My friends.
We have one friend.
My friends, that is a wrap on Gimme 3 podcast today. Thank you for joining us for our discussion of Black independent cinema, a theme I think we will likely revisit. As I mentioned, we'll probably likely do a Oscar Micheaux episode at some point down the line as well. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. Keep your eyes and ears open over the next few episodes. What we're going to be doing, since we're leading up to the Los Angeles Diversity Film Festival, as I mentioned, our next few episodes, we are going to be discussing some of the films of the Los Angeles Diversity Film Festival with the actual filmmakers. So as we're talking about independent cinema, we're going to be talking to independent filmmakers, LADFF accepted filmmakers. We're going to be talking about their movies, and some of them maybe even giving us a little gimme 3 of their own. Some movies that inspired them, inspired their work within the same theme. So stick around for the next few episodes. We're going to be discussing that. And as I mentioned, the Los Angeles Diversity Film Festival, August 22nd through August 24th, LADFF.com is the place to be. Some screenings have tickets available right now. Other screenings, I think August 1st, they will be available. But anyway, LADFF.com. You can sign up for our mailing list there as well, so you can get all the updates of when certain screenings are going on sale. You can watch all our trailers there. It is the place to be. You can follow the film festival also at LA Diversity Film Fest on Instagram. And if you like our podcast and you like what we do, you can follow us on Instagram as well at Gimme 3 Podcast. That's GIMME, spell out 3 podcast. Gimme 3 Podcast. If you dig the show, there's a couple ways to support us also on Patreon for a mere $5 a month. Cheaper than a coffee, cheaper than a beer. You can support our show for just $5 a month. There's bonus content over there on our Patreon, and it just really helps us keeps us going, keeps the mics on. Another way to help the show is to download our episodes. If you set our podcast to automatically download, it's just great. It helps our downloads, helps raise our traction, or I don't know, algorithm, all that kind of crazy shit I don't know too much about, but it helps us. So just do it. Help a brother out. Help a sister out. Bella, do you want to let the lovely folks know where they can find you on the socials?
Yes, you guys can find me on Instagram at Portrait of a Cinephile or on Letterboxd at BF Stratus.
You can find me on Letterboxd, on Instagram, or on Blue Sky at Nicholas Ivara. Ivara is spelled with a Y. We want to thank you all for listening to the Gimme 3 podcast, and we will see you at the movies.